12 JDM cars that got banned but became legends anyway. Welcome back, speed lovers. Today we're diving into the outlaws of the JDM world, the cars so wild and ahead of their time that governments flat out said, nope, they were banned, blacklisted, and buried under red tape. But that only made them legends. Buckle up, because these 12 machines prove you can ban a car, but you can't ban greatness. 12. Toyota Supra JZ A80 twin-turbo, 1993 to 1998. The fourth-generation Supra wasn't just another performance car. It was Toyota's engineering flex. Powered by the 2JZ GTE, a 3-liter twin-turbo inline-six. The JZ A80 could reliably handle over 700 horsepower with little more than bolt-ons. In Japan, this engine was officially rated at 276 horsepower due to the gentleman's agreement. But everyone knew that number was a polite lie. It became a tuner's paradise. Bulletproof internals, sequential turbos, and a chassis that felt born for both drag strips and touge runs. However, this technical brilliance came with a catch. The JDM spec Supra Twin Turbo wasn't certified for export to many markets, especially the United States. It didn't meet DOT crash standards, OBD2 requirements, or the EPA's emissions regulations. Importing one before it turned 25 years old meant it was automatically classified as contraband under the infamous Motors Vehicle Safety Act. A handful were seized and crushed by U.S. Customs in the early 2000s, making the car's allure even stronger. In Australia, the government's SEVS, Specialist and Enthusiast Vehicle Scheme, limited entry for certain right-hand drive turbo models due to performance and safety testing failures. That effectively made the JZA80 a forbidden object for years, making it a machine so capable it couldn't pass the rulebook. Ironically, once the ban expired, demand exploded and prices skyrocketed. What was once illegal is now a blue-chip JDM collectible. 11. Mazda RX 7 Spirit R 2002. The RX 7 Spirit R marked the end of an era for Mazda. It was the final and most refined version of the FD3S, a machine that balanced lightness, beauty, and rotary chaos like nothing else. Every detail of the Spirit R was hand-finished, from its BBS wheels to the sculpted Recaro seats. Beneath the hood sat the 13 BREW twin-turbo rotary engine, small but ferocious, capable of a high-revving wail that no piston engine could imitate. The rotary's eccentric nature was also its downfall. It burned oil by design, drank fuel like a V8, and produced exhaust gases that laughed in the face of emission laws. By the early 2000s, the Spirit R could not pass the strict environmental regulations of the United States or Europe. Its lack of modern diagnostic systems made it non-compliant with OBD2 standards, and its emissions figures were beyond acceptable limits. The result was a widespread import ban that kept the car confined to Japan. Other regions, such as Australia and parts of the UK, limited its import due to safety and compliance issues with right-hand drive vehicles. Instead of fading away, the Spirit R became an instant collectible. Only 1,500 units were built, and their scarcity combined with the global bans turned them into museum pieces of rotary history. It was a car that refused to conform and was punished for it, yet adored all the more because of that rebellion. 10. Honda NSX-R 1992. The NSX-R was Honda's vision of absolute driving purity. It was a lighter, sharper, and more focused version of the already iconic NSX. Engineers stripped away luxury to chase balance and precision. Sound insulation, air conditioning, and even the stereo were removed. The engine's internal components were hand-balanced for perfect response, and the suspension geometry was reworked for track precision. This obsessive pursuit of purity made the NSX-R illegal in most export markets, nor did it satisfy European safety and noise regulations. The suspension setup was too aggressive for homologation, and the lack of comfort features made it fail basic market tests for road legality. Honda sold it exclusively in Japan, locking away one of its finest creations from the rest of the world. Collectors did not take that quietly. The NSX-R became an obsession for enthusiasts abroad. Some went through complicated gray market channels to import and convert them, paying enormous sums for the privilege. When a few legal examples finally appeared decades later, they were priced higher than Italian exotics from the same period. The NSX-R was banned not because it was flawed, but because it cared more about driving perfection than about following rules. 9. Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 6 Tommy Mäkinen Edition 1999 to 2001. If the Lancer Evolution 6 was a road-going missile, the Tommy Mäkinen Edition was a guided one. Built to celebrate Mitsubishi's 4 consecutive WRC titles under the Finnish rally legend, it looked ready to leap off a dirt stage even when parked. The red paint with the white decals screamed rally royalty, and the handling lived up to it. Quicker steering, a revised turbocharger, a titanium aluminide turbine, and a closer ratio gearbox turned it from a sports sedan into a precision weapon. But that precision came with problems. The car's JDM only specification, aggressive tuning, and right-hand drive layout immediately made it fall foul of US safety and emission standards. The exhaust system didn't meet EPA regulations, and the steering column placement alone was enough for the NHTSA to label it unfit for import. It also triggered restrictions in parts of Europe, particularly where noise and emission standards tightened. Ironically, the car that conquered rally stages across continents couldn't conquer bureaucratic paperwork. The Tommy Mäkinen edition became an outlaw by accident, turning the simple act of ownership outside Japan into a full-blown adventure. For years, enthusiasts whispered about it as the Red Devil. And by the time the 25-year rule began lifting restrictions, it had already crossed into legend territory. 8. Subaru Impreza WRX STi 22B, 1998. The 22B wasn't just a car, it was Subaru's victory lap for winning 3 consecutive WRC manufacturer titles, and it celebrated that by completely ignoring the concept of moderation. The 2.2-liter EJ22G engine was unique to the model, a hand-assembled beast producing an official 276 horsepower, though dyno tests suggested far more. Add flared arches, Bilstein suspension, and permanent all-wheel drive, and you had a compact coupe that behaved like a wild animal on espresso. Unfortunately, regulators didn't see the fun. The 22B was built exclusively for Japan, and its limited production of 400 units, plus a few export specials, meant it was never homologated for major markets. It lacked airbag systems compliant with US regulations and failed to meet emission standards due to its unique ECU mapping and exhaust flow. The United States classified it as a non-conforming vehicle under the Motor Vehicle Safety Act, effectively banning it. Even the UK restricted early imports until the single vehicle approval system relaxed years later. Despite its legal troubles, the 22B became the holy grail of Subaru fandom. It was the one car every rally fan wanted but couldn't have, and scarcity made it mythical. Today, even crashed examples sell for absurd prices, proving that sometimes the law of supply and demand laughs right back at the law of the land. 7. Nissan Silvia S15 Spec R, 1999 to 2002. The Silvia S15 was Japan's stylish assassin. With a sharper body, updated suspension, and the SR20 DET turbo engine tuned to perfection, it became a drifting icon long before anyone said initial D with a straight face. Lightweight, agile, and with perfect rear-wheel drive balance, the S15 didn't just look fast, but it moved like it had something to prove. The Spec R trim took everything further, with a 6-speed manual, helical LSD, and a reinforced chassis that made it the ultimate weapon for twisty roads. Unfortunately, that precision and attitude meant trouble abroad. The S15 never received official export approval for North America due to lack of compliance with crash and emission standards. Its right-hand drive setup sealed its fate under US import laws. Even Australia limited its sale until special compliance programs were created for enthusiasts. Several European countries restricted it too, mainly because Nissan didn't homologate the model outside Asia. The irony is that while the S15 was banned in many regions, it dominated their underground scenes. People imported shells, swapped drivetrains, and built Frankenstein drift cars just to get a taste of it. What was once deemed too unsafe by regulators became the most beloved sideways machine on the planet. The S15 was never built to follow rules. It was built to break traction. 6. Honda Civic Type R EK9, 1997 to 2000. The EK9 wasn't about power, it was about precision. Honda took a lightweight Civic hatch, dropped in a screaming 1.6-liter B16B engine that revved to 8,400 RPM and gave it handling so sharp it could cut glass. It wasn't turbocharged, but it didn't need to be. It was the purest expression of what Honda engineers could do when they built a car for themselves rather than the market. That purity, however, didn't make it past US customs. The EK9 was Japan only, and it failed to meet American safety standards for airbags, crash tests, and emissions. The B16B's high compression ratio and lack of OBD2 compliance were instant disqualifiers. Even some European markets rejected it because of strict emissions categories in the late 90s. So while the rest of the world got tamer Civics, Japan kept the real deal locked behind a "do not import" sign. But enthusiasts don't take no easily. the EK9 became one of the most smuggled, swapped Type Rs from base models just to feel a slice of that magic. This banned car became a blueprint for obsession. 5. Toyota Chaser JZX 100, 1996 to 2001. The Toyota Chaser JZX 100 was what happened when your accountant uncle secretly loved street racing, like a sensible mid-size sedan. It had a big trunk, quiet cabin, the kind of car that blended perfectly into Tokyo traffic. But under that calm exterior lived the heart of a hooligan, the 1JZ twin-turbo inline-6. It was smooth, powerful, and easily tunable to levels that embarrassed actual sports cars. The Chaser was the car you could drive to a board meeting and then drift through the parking lot on the way out. That double life, however, didn't sit well with import regulators. In the US, the JZX 100 was flat-out banned under the 25-year rule for failing to meet crash standards, and Toyota never offered a left-hand drive version to ease the pain. Canada, Australia, and parts of Europe weren't much kinder either, citing safety and emission restrictions. Even in Japan, insurance companies gave it side-eye thanks to its street racing reputation. What makes the ban sting is that the Chaser never pretended to be wild. It was elegant mischief in sedan form. And maybe that's what made it dangerous to bureaucrats. Today, enthusiasts treat it like a secret handshake among JDM lovers. 4. Mitsubishi FTO GPX/GPVR, 1994 to 2000. The Mitsubishi FTO GPX and its rarer GPVR sibling were the sports coupes that never got the global fame they deserve. They were small, lightweight, front-wheel drive rockets designed to carve through corners like scalpels. The GPX came with Mitsubishi's high-revving 2-liter Civic V6, a gem of an engine that screamed like an angry violin at 8,000 RPM. The GPVR took things further with even tighter suspension and a close-ratio gearbox, turning a budget coupe into a track-day menace. But while Japan adored it, the rest of the world barely knew it existed. In the United States, the FTO never made it past import authorities due to strict crash test requirements and emission laws that didn't take kindly to high-compression V6s. Even Australia, which had early imports until they were 15 years old because of design compliance issues. It wasn't dangerous, but a bit too different from anything Western regulators were ready for. The irony? It looked so innocent that customs officers probably didn't expect it to outrun their paperwork. Today, the FTO is a cult classic, worshipped for its agility, its anime hero looks, and that intoxicating MIVEC howl. It's the kind of car that makes you wonder how something so capable was once treated like contraband. 3. Mazda Cosmo 20B, 1990 to 1996. The Mazda Cosmo 20B was Japan's grandest flex, a car so advanced it could have hosted its own tech convention. It came with the world's first triple-rotor engine, twin sequential turbos, a touchscreen luxury that rivaled European sedans. It was meant to show what Mazda could do when cost wasn't a concern, and for a moment, it seemed like the future had arrived early. Then the paperwork hit. The 20B's triple-rotor setup and complex turbo system didn't meet emission standards in the US, Australia, or much of Europe. The engine ran too rich and produced levels of hydrocarbons regulators couldn't ignore. Combine that with right-hand drive and a price tag that pushed into Lexus territory, and the Cosmo never left Japan officially. It wasn't banned for being unsafe, just for its own era. Still, the Cosmo's legend only grew. Rotary fans worship it as the ultimate evolution of Mazda's madness, and collectors now pay small fortunes for clean examples. It was the kind of car that made no financial sense, broke every rule of practicality, and still managed to look like the future even decades later. 2. Toyota Century V12, 1997 to 2017. If the Lexus LS was Japan's polite luxury ambassador, the Toyota Century was the quiet emperor who didn't need to speak to command respect. Hand-built with obsessive precision, its V12 engine, the only one ever made by a Japanese manufacturer, was tuned not for power, but for absolute silence. It didn't roar, it whispered. Inside, you got wool seats instead of leather, curtains on the windows, and technology meant for CEOs, diplomats, and royalty. That level of refinement, though, came at a cost. The Century was built exclusively for Japan's domestic market and never certified for export. Its V12 and emission systems were tuned for Japan's unique regulations, which made it automatically non-compliant in the US, UK, and Europe. Even wealthy collectors couldn't easily bring one over without jumping through mountains of red tape. To make matters worse, Toyota actively discouraged foreign sales, considering the car a national symbol. So yes, technically it's banned, but more out of reverence than rebellion. The Century wasn't outlawed for being wild. It was forbidden because it was sacred. For most of the world, it's a myth on wheels, a rolling shrine to Japanese craftsmanship that almost nobody gets to drive. 1. Nissan Skyline GTR 32 Godzilla 1989 to 1994. The R32 Skyline GTR didn't just earn its nickname, it conquered it. When it debuted in 1989, it combined a twin-turbo straight-six with all-wheel drive and four-wheel steering, instantly rewriting the rulebook for what a sports car could do. It dominated Japan's Group A racing series so thoroughly that competitors quit showing up. In Australia, it crushed touring car legends so badly that the locals called it Godzilla, the monster from Japan that couldn't be stopped. That same ferocity is what got it banned in multiple countries. In the US, the R32 was on the DOT's blacklist for failing to meet emissions, crash standards, and right-hand drive restrictions. Canada followed suit for years under similar rules. Even some Asian and European countries limited its import, citing uncontrollable performance potential, a bureaucratic code for "this thing is too fast." But legends have a way of outlasting laws. The R32 became the dream import for an entire generation of enthusiasts, and when the 25-year rule finally lifted, the floodgates opened. Now everyone that lands on American soil is treated like a celebrity arrival at customs. It was never meant to be tamed, and that's exactly why everyone still calls it Godzilla. So that's our lineup of legends that broke rules before they broke records. Cars that proved a ban isn't the end, it's just the start of myth-making. If you had fun tearing through the ghosts of JDM glory, hit that subscribe button, join the pit crew, and stick around because the next episode is going to redline even harder.